Hello everyone! Thanks you are watching my videos, and that video I've decided to dedicate to talk about the I prefix for the naming for the interfaces in TypeScript. And as usually as many my others videos, that video consists of three main parts. The history for that video, for that question, small discussion, and the last one it's my opinion, kind of my practice. So let me start. Let me start from the history of that question. I remember when I started working with the TypeScript many years ago, we were using I prefix. Even it's as a strict rule, and it could be even negatively commented if you don't use it in your changes. But since that time, I start hearing that it's like a bad practice. It becomes a bad practice. And I even remember I asked a couple of times different engineers, not just only lead, but junior, middle developers, what's the reason why it's bad practice. And unfortunately, I don't remember any clear explanation why it is so. And not so long time ago, I had the similar discussion again, and decided eventually to create that video and possibly to receive a feedback, maybe some other opinions or thoughts on that, something new I will receive. And okay, so jumping ahead, I will tell you that I don't think that it's a bad practice in general. But let's discuss at least briefly about the arguments which I have heard. I will try to talk around them, and then I will provide some my experience why I don't think that it's bad practice. Surely it's up to developers to decide, but let's move on. About the arguments which I have heard. The first, and I think the most often argument which I have heard is the argument, okay, if I should to use I prefix for the naming for the interfaces, why I shouldn't do the same for the types, for enum names, etc. I think yes, it sounds very good explanation, very good argument, but in fact let's consider it. Usually, and especially if you have been working with many projects, you know that many times the namings for the enums, for the types, they are clear. They are kind of self-explainable, and they have enough signals to tell who they are. Am I enum, or I am a type, or anything like that. And even for example, the name for the types may end with a type word, making that clear it's a type possibly. But with an interfaces it's not always clear, and it's easy to confuse them with an object, with the classes for example. But it's different things, because the classes, it's implementation or object, but interfaces it's just only the type, and in general it will be compiled to nothing. So that's a different and very essential difference, which I'm gonna to talk about again later. So that's the first argument which I've heard, and I found it really not serious. The second argument which I have heard is, okay, there are many plugins or code editors nowadays can highlight if it's an interface or anything like that. And so you can distinguish the interface from the classes if you do want. Agree, maybe, but what about code review? Doing a code review, for example, in a GitLab or in Bitbucket, at least I haven't seen any highlighting, any plugins even which could help me to do that. And that's why looking onto some pull requests or merge requests which contains a lot of changes, especially created new classes or something like that, you may be curious, what is it, the dependency of it? Is it the class or is it the interface? And you need to, or you have to drill down. So again, highlighting it's okay, but looks like it doesn't cover all the possible cases. The next argument which I have heard, like, it's extra letter, why I should to write that extra letter, it takes time. no, okay, but let's skip for now that argument. Let's move on with the last one argument which I've heard. The last one argument it's okay. The name for the interfaces should be self-explainable by itself. You don't reading the name. You already should understand that it's the interface, but not the class. And I found that that argument really sensible. However, again, it's controversial. It's not controversial. That argument is opposite to the previous one, which is extra letter. I don't want to write the extra letter I. Because if you don't want to write the extra letter, you don't have enough time, but you have enough time to sit and thinking about how to name that interface that may help you to understand that it's an interface. And it's really not easy. You have to you have to be rich on different associations, trying to find the appropriate name for that particular interface, and it takes time. And that's the reason, by the way, why I've decided to use the I prefix, because I found it first of all pretty cheap. I don't need to invent and sit a long time thinking about the variable, about the name for that interface, just simply to add the I, especially if my class implements some interface. But that's not the main reason why I use I. In general, I would agree that maybe the last argument about the name of the interface should be explainable. I think the most which can be the reason don't use the I prefix. Just only that one, at least for now. But I will tell you my practice when I've decided to use I prefix, and it really helps me. First of all, my case, it's like I said, Typescript, and it's front-end application, and it's Angular application mostly. And in my architecture, I have a presentation layer and I have a core layer. So I have a decoupling of those layers, kind of it. And I want to split not just only the layers, but I want to split the code as well. And I want to have more control on that split, to control and to prevent that any code which is placed inside the core model, it shouldn't be accidentally be a part of the presentation layer. And to control that, you need to control the imports and dependencies in your classes. And looking onto class and your dependencies, if you see the prefix I, you can exactly understand, as a type annotation for the dependency, I mean, you can exactly identify that this dependency is the interface, and that dependency will be compiled to nothing. That means no any imports will be analyzed and managed by Webpack. Otherwise, if you are using, like in Angular or any other framework, you're using a class on a type annotation, that means the reference will be remained and that code will be included in that module. I understand you may tell me that there is a terser plugin in Webpack which is responsible for removing unused imports. I agree with you, but that's not the case for Angular, because in Angular type annotation becomes a part of that class. It's attached to the class because it requires then in runtime to resolve the dependency, and that's why it's attached with the help of reflect meta. That's why in Angular any type annotation, and if it's a class, it will be a part of that model. And you possibly understand how it's easy to do some small changes and then to see that your bundle structure has been changed essentially. Any wrong dependency can lead that your bundle or your chunk will be increased like many times. because it will include that dependency, and by the chain the dependency of that dependency, and so on and so on, and that will be a part of your bundle, and Webpack will not manage it in some other way, so it will be included. I understand that there are some opportunities like to set the chunk size or something like that, but again, what's the important? You have to take care of that anyway, and that distinguish that I prefix helps me to distinguish interfaces from the classes, and looking onto the pull request or any other changes or into the code in general, I can see that the dependency is interface because there is an I prefix, and that will be compiled to nothing, and nothing more will be included to that bundle, and that's pretty easy for me. I can save time, and I prefix again save my time. Do not invent some other complicated or self-explainable name. I understand that you may tell me that in Angular you're using inject decorator for such dependencies, to create injection token and resolve dependencies with the help of them, but again there are some specific other cases, and believe me, that problem from time to time will happen when you will see the dependencies in the constructor as a constructor arguments, and you need to distinguish is it interface or class, and that is important, I think, also for engineers who was working in 2010s when we were struggling for every kilobyte of bundle size. And nowadays we have in instruments like tertiary plugins of Webpack, different lazy loading, etc. But still to worry about the bundle size, I think is important. And once you will do that, or will start thinking or analyzing it, you possibly will understand the pain which I had when didn't use the I prefix. And also I asked, just for the sake of fun, I asked ChatGPT about that case, about the bad practice. Is it a bad practice? And ChatGPT, yes, he said it's a bad practice to use, it's not used, and so on. But after some discussion with it, it apologizes again and again, and then eventually reached the same opinion that it's up to developer. So that's really my opinion. That's up to developer. That's up to the project to decide whether to use or not the I prefix. And there is not a correct statement to say that I prefix is a bad practice. Maybe yes, but depends on the project. So if you have any other arguments, I will be happy if you will put them in the comments. From my side, I think I have quite everything explained what's related to that topic, and that's it. Thanks for watching that video. Bye.